afternoon, everybody. This is Debbie Enoe with another episode on the challenges and triumphs of online teaching during COVID, during COVID-19 at the Female Educator Roundtable with one of my guests from the female educator from around the world. She is not only an educator, she is the owner of the school, and she's also the principal of the school. So I would like to welcome Liz. Welcome, Liz, and thank you very much for accepting the offer to come onto the platform. Can you can you introduce yourself to us, please?
Thank you, Debbie. It's really a great and a wonderful experience to be here. This is the first of its kind for me, and I feel very, very elated that you have chosen to ask me to share some things of my experience with this new scenario that has been happening, this new environment, this new pandemic. I've never been in a pandemic experience before, so everything about it is novel. And I'm really happy to be here with you. I listened to a few of your episodes before, and my God, I've been intrigued. So I'm happy to be part of it. My name is Elizabeth Forsyth. I am a Grenadian, born and bred, and I own a private school. It's a preschool with the primary school attached, or the primary school with the preschool attached, whichever way you want to look at it. And we are located in Mount Parnassus. That's a village just outside of the capital, St. George's. And we have been operating now for 11 years. We started in 2009. So actually September will make us 11 years since we've been established. Fantastic. And it's great being here. Grenada, I don't know if you know that, but it's known as pure Grenada, the spice of the Caribbean.
Yes, I'm a Grenadian.
I know you are. So it's great being able to connect with you. It's great. It's great. It's great.
Yes, it's fantastic. I'm so glad that you actually accept the opportunity to come online with me.
Let me ask you this question, Debbie. Which part of Grenada are you from?
Right. Well, really, I am from Carriacou.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, I'm from Carriacou.
Better yet. Yes, the land of all the reefs, all the beaches.
Yes.
Oh, pure innocence.
Yes.
That's what I say about Carriacou.
Unspoiled. It is an unspoiled island which, people need to come with me on one of my my retreats. When I'm, because next year I'm hoping to do a retreat for female educators. So, and that's where I want to do my first retreat is in Carriacou, the lovely, unspoiled, country. So
that's a wonderful idea. And I'm surely going to join in.
Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Right. So as you guys know that I've been doing a number of lives with educators around the world and principals from around the world to discuss the now new normal that we are experiencing as educators. And one of the reasons why I've actually started this platform is I feel that as female educators, we have a story to tell. And we need to be telling our own story instead of other people telling the story for us. So we are actually telling our story of some of the triumphs and some of the challenges that we have been experiencing on this new normal platform that we had to use, or we are still using as a result of this COVID experience. And it is so important that we look at some of the challenges, but also remember there are also triumphs from this situation, which no doubt we are going to be taking back to the classroom whenever we get back to the classroom. So another reason I've actually looked at doing this platform as well, so that we could actually celebrate some of the things that we have been experiencing, although they have been new to us, although they have been unplanned, they have been untaught, because when we actually train as educators, we never actually been trained to work on the online platform. And the fact that we had no option as educators, as normal, we usually think on our feet, we actually just jump in and we just do it anyway. And this have been no exception. So what I also want to remind educators, especially female educators, we need to be proud of where we came from and where we are at. And we need to celebrate the fact that we did not know anything about the online platform, but we've actually made it. We've actually swum across. So that is enough for us to be grateful to ourselves. And we need to stop being so hard on ourselves that even though we get it wrong, it is okay. Because this is not something we have practiced and this is not something we have trained for. None of us have trained on the online platform. So it is new to us. We are learning with our students. Even though we're learning with our students, we still should be proud of that. And we also need to remember, although there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of triumphs. And behind every challenges, there's also the silver lining, because in order for you to appreciate and enjoy something, you need to go through the challenges in order to want to be on the other side to appreciate it, because nothing comes without challenges. So that's something we need to start appreciating as female educators. And that's the reason why I feel that, you know, when we actually discuss how we've actually coped with it, we will also be taking information from each other and learning from each other and using some of the ideas from each educator that we actually implement in our own practice.
Yeah.
So Liz, one of the questions I want to, there's several, but just one of them I want to ask you is, as the founder, as the leader, as the principal of this school, how have you prepared your students, and how have you prepared your staff, and how have you supported your staff to actually start teaching on this new platform? What were the challenges? What are the triumphs? Just tell us about it.
Okay, Debbie, I'll be very honest with you. We never had an opportunity to prepare for this.
Right.
We were always using our devices like the laptops, the computers, even the little tablets and so. We would use that in school, especially at the grade 6 level, which is the level just prior to moving on to secondary school, moving out of the primary into the secondary. Or some people refer to it as elementary, moving out of elementary. So at that level, they would do a lot of their research, they would do a lot of their work that they would have to present, their various assignments and so on. They would do that online. They would do that, you know, on their devices. But we really and truly never prepared for having to teach online. We were able to maneuver certain things because we were using those things for our own personal reasons. But we, as a school, quite honestly and quite frankly, we did not prepare for that. It was thrust upon us. And it had me having some sleepless nights, I'll be honest. When we were immediately sent home by the pronouncement of our Prime Minister by virtue of the COVID-19 pandemic, that happened on March 13th. And by virtue of the fact that we already had in our school system the WhatsApp method by which to communicate. So every class had a WhatsApp chat. All the parents would be on that, the teacher or teachers, depending on the level, and of course the principal. We would be on the chat. And we also had a staff chat. So we were used to communicating there. So immediately, what I thought of and what I instituted was that whatever needs to be done to reach the children via instructional material, support, reinforcement, whatever, we can begin with the WhatsApp. So we actually were using that as well because we were sending certain assignments home through the parents, not
Mm-hmm.
only to the children in class, but we were sending assignments home through the WhatsApp to the parents, so that both the parents and the child would have had the knowledge that this assignment is coming and it's due X time. So there would be no excuse for not having it done, if you want to put it that way.
Okay, so hold on a second. That was before the pandemic, right? You were using
Before the
WhatsApp to send
pandemic.
information home. Okay.
Before the pandemic.
Okay.
And
Okay.
of course, communication, whatever plans were happening, whatever things were going to happen in school, communication came through WhatsApp, especially emails as well. But WhatsApp became much more common. So immediately upon being sent home, I had to find a way to ensure that our students were being reached. So we use the WhatsApp. In some instances, I said to the staff, you know what, there is a video chat on the WhatsApp. So if you have the ability to do so, use the video chat, and maybe you could meet some of the children in groups. So that occurred as well. But then we found that that was not sufficient. That was not sufficient. And I said to the staff, we have to find a means of reaching our students and taking advantage of what is being offered via the internet. Now, I am not an internet, I mean, I'm not so savvy with it, I must confess, but I've had some teachers who are excellent. I mean, they just knew how to find their way around. One of those was Miss Warren, whom you interacted with earlier, Deslin.
Yes.
Deslin is actually doing her master's, and many of her classes are done online. So by virtue of that became an advantage for her and for the school. So she was able to help us to get persons on board with it. Truth be told, prior to COVID-19, I had a lot more input into the grade 6 and 5 classes, the upper classes. But when COVID-19 came about and I found myself at home and having to supervise the entire school, I had to entrust the entire responsibility of the 5 and 6 to Deslin for the 6 and to another teacher for the 5, because I had to monitor every class. So we pushed the WhatsApp away a little bit and we moved into the Zoom.
Okay.
So we were having the Zoom classes, and the reason why we went into the Zoom was to ensure that we got all the children together, because there were times when the children in spite of the fact that WhatsApp was taking place and they were doing the work, they were sending back assignments, it was being corrected on WhatsApp, there was no interfacing of the children themselves.
Right, yeah.
And that was something that we could not allow to happen. Children are social beings. Yeah. And I said to the staff, I said, you know what? We've got to get to the Zoom, and the children must be allowed to see their friends, and they must be allowed to interact with their friends. So the first time that some of them got onto Zoom, my goodness, you could have imagined. I said to the staff, I said, give them time to reconnect. Give them time to just chat. Give them time to share their experiences. Because what happened with the COVID-19 immediate shutdown of schools and so on was a sense of fear and dread and uncertainty. You know, I mean, we as adults felt it. And I said to myself, I said, you know what? If we are feeling that kind of way, can you imagine our children? So immediately upon the Zoom, they were able now to reconnect. And oh my, it was wonderful seeing those children, happy to see each other's faces, happy to call one another out. And, you know, it was just great. So we had to cross that first hurdle in getting them to be able to reconnect. So the reconnection was the first thing, moving out of the WhatsApp into the Zoom. And so we continued with Zoom for a length of time. And then some of the teachers said, you know what, miss, we think we need more than the Zoom. Because the Zoom would allow for the face-to-face interaction, but the teachers felt that they had a commitment to ensuring that the children were receiving proper tutelage as well. So we began to look through the internet to see what was available. And I have another teacher by the name of Hamilton, Mrs. Hamilton. She's really good too. And she found out, she said, you know what? If we go to Google Classroom, we would be able to accomplish that. Then we moved on to School OG. And they were able to use School OG to, get all of the timetabling up, all of the assignments up, and so on and so forth. The children were able to send back their work and so on. So Google Classroom and School OG became two of the other main supporting platforms for the Zoom classes. Then added to that, we moved on because we kept searching, we kept surfing the internet, and we landed on Cisco WebEx. Why did we? Because Zoom only allowed us the 40 minutes free.
Yeah.
And then we said, but sometimes 40 minutes is not enough. By the time you allow them to interact, and by the time you get into the meat of the lesson, the 40 minutes is over. Because by virtue of them being at home, we had to ensure that they had a little opportunity to vent, if you want to call it that. So sometimes 10, 15 minutes, they're just interacting and getting settled for the class. So by the time you begin to teach, half an hour would have gone. 40 minutes would just be approaching. So that propelled us to look for something else. And that's when Cisco WebEx came up, because it was unlimited. And so some of the older classes went into the Cisco WebEx, and whenever the lesson was ended, they would end, and so forth and so forth. So that's basically how we were able to maneuver through the online platforms at First Choice Junior. That's basically what happened.
Okay, thank you. So how did the student actually, how did children themselves felt in relationship to having to now being taught online, and that is something they've never had done before. So how do you think the student actually felt on that? And
I think honestly, Debbie, I think initially it was a bit challenging for them, because we were entering into their space. Right. We were entering into their homes, and some people can be very private about their homes. So what I said to my staff, I said, you know what? Let us encourage our children to find a space that would be like their classroom space. So within the homes, some parents were able to just set up just maybe on the dinner table. Some were able to set up maybe a little space in the bedroom. Some were able to settle a space maybe in the living room. So we encourage them to create a learning space, something that made it look like school. So in some instances, there were backdrops that looked like an alphabet. You would have seen things maybe like posters, and so that parents might have found or they would have had before. So they would have posted on the wall. So in some cases, it was just like the background or the wall of a classroom in some instances. So that helps to make them more comfortable. There were others who were just free. So they it didn't matter whether or not they were in any particular space. But generally, the creation of that space that felt like the classroom space, that was something that we used to help to make them feel comfortable.
Thank you. In terms of anxiety, because what's crossing my mind in terms of anxiety, bearing in mind that, it is your school, you have the staff to think about and you have the student to think about. What were the issue in relationship to anxiety the teachers were facing and also the students were facing? And how did you you couldn't eliminate it altogether because this was an ongoing process, but how did you try to reduce the level of anxiety that both students, parents, and children experienced?
I'll tell you this. One of the things I did was that every day, every morning, I will send out greetings to my staff, and I would send out greetings to the parents and children. I would ask my staff, I would send maybe something general addressing everybody, and I would ask my staff to share it, because it would have taken me much longer to share with everybody. So my staff would just share with their particular class what was coming from me. And then the staff had to submit to me their timetable. when they're going to be on Zoom, when it's going to be Google Classroom, whatever platform, I had to have their timetable. So when I had that timetable, if it's a Zoom class or any class that would have allowed for a video conferencing setting, I would go into that video conferencing setting. I would go into Zoom and I would greet the kids just as though they would have been at school. So I would go and say, hello, how is everybody? Oh my goodness, I miss you. Oh my goodness, I love you so much. How are you doing? Is everything all right? You know, that kind of thing. I would go into the class and share. I would call them by their names. You know, I would use a lot of pet names as well to have to make them feel comfortable and know that they're loved and they are thought about and prayed for and things like that. So going in, and sometimes they would be surprised. Sometimes I would say to the teacher, I'm going to come into class today. Don't say anything. And when I would go into class, oh my God, it's like eruption. Oh, Miss Forsyth, Miss Forsyth, Miss Forsyth, how are you? Miss Forsyth, I love you. I'll be getting all of these little you know, all of that coming from the children. I mean, it was just so touching, you know, because we couldn't touch each other, we couldn't feel each other. We just were looking at each other online. So those things, you know, help to relieve them from some of their stresses. And you know, I told them as well too. I told them, I said, you know what? I don't know what is happening myself. You know, but you don't think that you are alone in it. If you have any problems, I'm sure you can talk with me. I would give them my phone number, my personal phone number. I would give it to my children. I said, call me if you have any difficulties. I gave it to my parents to call me, WhatsApp me, whatever, and things like that. My staff, I kept very close with my staff. I made sure that we had very frequent staff meetings. I made sure that I greeted them every day on our WhatsApp chat. I made sure that I sent them ideas. I sent suggestions. I sent little quotes, you know. I helped them with their lesson planning based on what they sent to me because they had to send me their plans. They had to send me the plans. Every head of the department had to send me her plan or his plan, and every other member of the department had to send theirs to their head of department for approval. Right. So when I would have gotten some, then I would look through them and ensure that they're, you know, they're on the right track, because I felt by virtue of Zoom or by virtue of Google Classroom, whichever one, there's a lot of sitting. A lot of sitting. And I said the children need to move. Movement is critical in the life of the children, their educational life, particularly tactile things, the touching, the dancing, and so on. So I would encourage them to incorporate activities that would allow for that to happen. You know, so whether they need to get up in the 40 minutes of Zoom, for that matter, if they need to get up at least 2 or 3 times, you know, give them an assignment. Don't just get up, don't just allow them to just get up like that, but assign them. Okay, go outside, look at the window, tell me how many green flowers have you seen? How many green leaves? What different types of leaves? But it is going out in an instruction that has an objective. You know, so that allowed for movement. And then some teachers will incorporate music and, you know, and get parents to come in. And it was just so novel. It was novel, but it was enjoyable. It was a time of challenge, but yet it was a time, as you say, of victory and triumph and success.
That's fantastic. That is so good, because it's like I'm visualizing some of the, you know, the activity, because being an educator who also taught primary and secondary, etc., you know, visualizing, you know, when they all see you online, how they all, oh, miss, you know, and it's like the excitement of that all, you know.
Definitely.
Because they haven't seen you for a while, so the excitement of actually seeing you online and listening to you, I can actually visualize that. Thank you for sharing that. Another factor is, how did you connect with your parents? Who connected with the parents, you or the teachers, and how was it done?
Both of us. Both of us. I encouraged my teachers. I said, you got to be on top of things with the parents, because sometimes you would observe that a child might be missing. A child might be absent from your view in the Zoom, or they might be absent from the participants list, or you might see a symbol, not a name. So when you see those things, it was important to get in touch with parents to ensure that the children were online. And then if there was a case that needed any further intervention, then the teachers would refer them to me. And I would get in touch with these parents and find out what's happening, and give suggestions as to how to deal with some of the issues that they were facing. Because there were times, well, prior to uh, when we were on the full lockdown, because here in Grenada, we were on full lockdown for about 2 weeks. Nobody was allowed to go outside and so. And
Hold on a second. When you say full lockdown, are you saying that for the whole day, no one was allowed to go out at all?
24-hour curfew, my darling.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Our government was very, very decisive on keeping COVID-19 out of our country.
Okay.
And when the first case was determined, we went on a serious drive to keep it out of the country. So they had to do certain things that were seemingly drastic, but it was to keep this pandemic outside of our country and not within our country. They had to do something to keep it under control. And so the initial stages, when we went home earlier, it was more like not having the children going to school, because that could be a cause for contagious spreading. So first of all, the children were sent home, schools were closed. But the next stage was the lockdown, where we had to stay at home and we were not allowed to go outside. We got a few hours to go to the supermarket. There were a few strategies for that. And, but it was a time of really, oh my God, it was a trying time. The total lockdown, oh my God, it was. We have had that experience. Those of us who are in our 50s, we would have had that during the days of the revolution, when Morris Bishop was killed on the 4th. We had a 24-hour curfew as well, but it lasted for 4 days. But with COVID-19, it went into about 2 weeks, and so it was a tough one. Really
so
tough.
2 weeks. Sorry, so 2 weeks that you guys, nobody was allowed to go out at all for 24 hours.
24 hours. On selected days, we were allowed to go to the supermarket on selected days.
How did they monitor that? I'm just curious as to how did they monitor that people were not going out? How was that monitored?
The police was very well organized. They had their drones.
Okay.
They had their drones going all around the island. So they were able to monitor what was going on.
Okay.
I give them kudos for that.
That's fantastic. They actually did total lockdown, and they know that nobody was leaving the house, because they monitor that. Whoa. Yeah. That was an operation. That's what you call real organization.
I think that helped to stem the spread. That helped to stem it. And many people would have been disadvantaged. I mean, we were unhappy. I mean, I couldn't get up to do my walking and so on in the early morning, and so, but I had to find another way of dealing with it. And that is when I decided, you know what? I cannot allow my children to just be home, just sitting down. They can't go outside and play. Grenadian children play all the time. We are always out. They're always outside playing.
Yeah.
So I said to my coach, Coach, we have to find a way of getting our children to move and to play and to be happy. So we got our coach to come into play then. He had to create various WhatsApp or Zoom or Facebook sessions for school. So we had the Facebook live session, so anybody could have participated in those Facebook live sessions. And then we had scheduled sessions per class. So we had, we had our from our preschoolers, 3-year-olds, all the way up to our 12-year-olds involved in physical education, in activities, movement, and so with music and things like that, so that their bodies would be energized and so forth. And that was done by our school's coach, Mr. Oliver, and it was very successful.
Okay.
Added to that, I realized that in the lockdown, many of our children was snacking on unhealthy snacks. So those
Okay.
things coming from the paper bags, you
Mm-hmm,
know,
mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm.
yellow and the blue and the whatever color stuff. And I said, no, I cannot have my children just eating all of those things. Those things were
Mm-hmm,
not nutritious. So I
mm-hmm,
brought in our cook, our chef, because
mm.
we have a school feeding program where they have
Okay.
hot meals every day. So
Okay.
I said, you know what? And she was so gracious. She said, Miss, what can we do to help the children? They're eating from these things too much, because parents would go to the supermarket and that's the easiest thing to grab, you know, because
Yeah.
you don't have enough hours to choose. So whatever you see, you grab and you bring it home so that the children will
Yes.
have things to eat. So we said, you know what? Let us see if we can come up with some simple meals that the children themselves can make and that they
Mm-hmm.
can eat. So we got some of them to even eat some things that they had said before that they did not like.
Yes.
So when they made their French toast and they made their sandwich pizza and they made their mac and cheese and you know, and they made their burgers and so on. Oh my God. And they had to post them, send them via WhatsApp. So
Okay.
each class send them to their teacher, and their teacher would send them to the staff chat sometimes and send them to me. And trust me, I posted some on Facebook.
Fantastic. Fantastic. That's brilliant.
Yes, so we did that to help our children because we felt it just was not enough to
Mm-hmm.
have them just doing academics because
Right.
naturally at school we concentrate on the academics, but
Mm-hmm.
we also concentrate on the athletics and
Mm-hmm.
the aesthetics because we do a lot of dancing and singing and guitar playing. We do karate, we do
Okay.
swimming, we do steel pan, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So going home out, you know, and not having these activities
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to add to what you would have had at, you know, we had those things at school and you go home and there's nothing. So
Yeah.
we had to
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
ways and means of bringing some of those activities home to our children.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you for that. So, who connected? You say that in terms of the parents. So, you know, you guys, you say, but you and your teachers connected with the parents.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
quite
So,
a lot.
okay. So you connected with parents. What was the purpose of it?
My connecting with parents, first of all, as I said, was just to ensure that they were okay,
Okay.
that they were able to cope, they were
Mm-hmm.
encouraged, you know, they did not feel left alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because some people began to feel lonely, and you know, you were hearing and seeing comments online on Facebook and so on. And I said, you know what, I have to help my parents as best as I can. So we would
Mm-hmm.
communicate if they had a problem. I let them know they can speak to me, they could share with me and things like that. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, I asked my staff as well to make sure that the lines of communication are open for every parent.
Mm-hmm.
So they were
Mm-hmm.
able now to share with the parents. They shared with the parents the good things, and they shared with the parents the things that were challenging. Because there
Yeah.
were times, like I said, when some children were not able to come on. There were times when the internet itself gave problems. They were bumped
Mm-hmm.
off from a Zoom class or something, and maybe did not get all the information. So
Mm-hmm.
teachers had to connect with parents to ensure that they would have gotten all the information and the children would have been aware of what would have happened and so on and so forth. So parents would also be messaging the teacher and saying, okay, my child has been dropped off. Are you able to
Mm-hmm.
let her back in? Can you let him in? You know, things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
there was an
Mm-hmm.
open line of communication. When
Mm-hmm.
when I was actually when I was actually brought into the picture, basically, it's when there is a case that we would want to say is a bit serious.
Right.
A
Right.
child might have
Right.
been out of class for a few days,
Mm-hmm.
then the teacher would say, Miss, I've not seen this child. I've spoken to the parent. I've tried to reach the parent and so on and so forth. And then
Mm-hmm.
I would try my best to intervene, use whatever
Right.
means that I could find to reach
Mm-hmm.
the parent and to find out what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
quite honestly, not all of our children were able to access everything that we did.
Right.
And when I
Yes.
say that, here is what I'm meaning. that percentage might have been like a 1 or 2%.
Mm-hmm.
Some parents, after
Mm-hmm.
the lockdown, after the total lockdown, some parents had to go back to work. So having to go back to work meant that your child would have been left alone at home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they would have had to send their children to a grandparent who may be
Mm-hmm.
living in the country area, not necessarily in the town.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
some of those grandparents are not interested in internet.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
sometimes when they would have gone for their granny to take care of them, there would have been no internet. So they were not
Mm-hmm.
able to get hold of the Zoom classes or the
Right,
Google
yes.
Classroom or something like that. So
Yes.
that would have caused us to reach out to the parents, tell us what is happening. And then they
Mm-hmm.
would say to me, well, miss, this is what is happening. I can't do any better because I must go back out to work and there's nobody else to take care of my child and so on and so forth. So then we
Mm-hmm.
decided, you know what? These parents would need special intervention. So the teachers now, even though they may have taught their full lesson before,
Mm-hmm.
they would still try to reach these children in a mini lesson later on in the day, maybe in the evening when the parents
Okay.
would have come back from work, or maybe sometime in
Okay.
the night, and things like that. So
Yeah,
we had
yeah.
to do that to ensure that every child was reached.
Right, right, right. So thank you for that. So in other words, when you actually in terms of internet, because you give the example, parents not available, so they're staying with the grandchildren, with the
Hmm.
grandparents rather, sorry.
Grandparents,
So
yeah.
did you have any child that wasn't able to access the resource because they didn't have a computer, or they did not have, they didn't have any of the device that would allow them to come online, or they were living in remote areas? Did you have any of those challenges with the
Oh
students?
yes, oh yes. We had many children who were depending on their parents' phone.
Right.
Hmm. So when parents would have gone out to work and would have gone with their phone, these
Mhm,
children had no other device to use. So
mhm.
again, that was one of the reasons why teachers would have had to do mini lessons in the evening and in the night when the parents would be back at home, because the children would have to use the parents' phone.
Okay,
You see?
okay. So that is interesting. Thank you for that. That actually demonstrates how the online platform have actually forced educators to be even more flexible than they had to be.
Definitely,
And
definitely.
another thing is, it also, I keep saying that in all the sessions, because it's true. It actually make us start doing differentiation as it ought to be done, because
Hmm.
we are now focusing on the needs of the child and not one size fit all.
That's right.
You
That's
see,
right. That's right.
so
Quite
that's
true.
one of the positive for me for the online platform, because as much as when we're in the classroom, when in the building, we try as much as possible to differentiate by using different techniques, etc. There's sometimes we still struggle because we are unable to provide full differentiation for the children. But the
Hmm.
children are actually deciding in terms of,
Hmm.
plus the parents are not around, so therefore that's a decision made outside of the child,
Yes.
the child control. So therefore, the educators had to be flexible. Did you have any situation where the child was refusing to come online because they don't want to show their faces?
Well, we had them. They would turn off their cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah, they turned off their cameras sometimes, and teachers had to make a stipulation that all cameras have to be on,
Right, right.
because they would need to question them. They would need to get responses. They would need to get their feedback. They need to get their views and so forth. So there were times when they had to insist that they come on. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
I didn't mention that before, but I should tell you that when we began to do the Zoom, especially, we decided, I said to the staff, we have to come up with a mode of conduct, the
Mm-hmm.
protocols for using the, the, the the platforms. So there were certain rules that we said, okay, this should happen. Because I said to them, okay, we are not having school per se, so you do not necessarily have to wear your school uniform, but you should
Mm-hmm.
be dressed appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
And I would give them an idea as to how they should dress. Comb your hair, make yourself look lovely, because I love to encourage my children to look
Mm-hmm.
well groomed, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
I said, dress yourself nicely, you know, put on something beautiful. You're getting an opportunity to wear some of the clothes that you don't get to wear when you're at school because you're wearing your uniform. And if you choose to wear your uniform, that's fine. That's not a problem, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, so we had to do that. And I'm glad you talked about the differentiated learning because that's when as well some members of staff were able to pull a child or two out and have mini lessons with them based on
Mm-hmm.
what would have transpired in the classes. They'd have
Mm-hmm.
realized, okay, this child needed some support, maybe in this aspect of the lesson or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they would pull them out and work with them. Some teachers work with them on Saturdays. Some teachers
Mm-hmm.
work with them on Sundays,
Mm.
especially when they knew that parents would be at home and the device would be available. So, you know,
Right.
I have to say, you know, how happy and how grateful I am to my staff. I
Mm-hmm.
must say that our staff here at First Choice Junior have been tremendous. Each one of them has been tremendous. I mean,
Right.
every day we were engaged from Monday to Friday. And
Right.
when I realized that there was some social things happening that affected the psyche of people in our country, because we began to see some young men committing
Mm-hmm.
suicide.
Whoa.
We had a few suicides in Grenada. hmm We had a few suicides. I mean, and I had to get to my teachers and say, you know what, we need to do something to help our children to cope. Let them know that there is hope. There's no reason
Mm-hmm.
to despair, and so on. So prior to COVID, we had what was called the Good News Club. Good News Club was a Friday afternoon meeting that was
Mm-hmm.
facilitated by outside persons who would come in
Okay.
and share things, biblical truths that would have given virtues and values that the children can build upon. But that,
Mm-hmm.
as we said, was that was stopped when we went home. But then I said, no, we got to bring that back in because the
Mm-hmm.
children must know that there is hope. They must know that they are
Mm-hmm.
loved, that they are cared for, that they are
Mm-hmm.
prayed for, you know? So we
Yeah.
brought back that program in. And then for the grade sixes, those who are about to go to secondary school,
Mm-hmm.
prior to COVID, we also had a counseling session, a weekly counseling session. And
Okay.
we had to find that counselor and say to her, we call her Granny Gibson. We said, Granny Gibson, I said to her, I said, Granny Gibson, we need you to come back in because we
Mm-hmm.
need
Mm-hmm.
us to know, yes, this is a trying time for everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
there is hope. So Granny came back in and
Mm-hmm.
you know, started counseling them again and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. So that helped. And it's
Mm-hmm.
critical to cater for the all
Yeah.
round
Yeah.
child, not
Yeah.
just the academic child, but the all
Yes.
round child. We need to provide for
Yeah.
every aspect of their being. So
Yes.
that's how
Yes.
we do.
Yes. Yes, that's fantastic though, because there's sometimes when you're teaching children, we forget that, we need to look at the holistic being of that child, not
That's
only
right.
the intellectual, we need to look at the physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and spiritual aspect, the holistic child, so that we have a balanced child,
Of
not only
course.
an academic child. It is so important that we remember
hmm
that as educators. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you. Another thing that actually crossed my mind is, as the as the person in charge of the school, how have you felt? You know, what were your
I've
feelings? For me, I could see there would be lots of anxiety because the uncertainty of, would that actually force me to close my school? Would my school still be able to run financially? What are the issues? There's so many questions that would be going through my head, because surely the fact that you're a private school, and if you're not providing the resources for the parents, they're not meeting the needs of the child.
Debbie.
So,
Hmm. Debbie, I'll tell you this. It was very, very, very trying.
yeah,
We had a sense of, had a sense of uncertainty,
yeah,
but I was able to be supported by a strong management team. So
fantastic.
although I am the co-owner and principal,
Mm.
my husband is the school's administrator.
Okay.
So all of the administrative issues are basically handled by him. And my son is in the area of finance. He's an accountant. So he was able to help with that. And then our chairman is also a very well seasoned and accomplished accountant. So we have a chairman of the board who is not, the board is not governed by me, nor my husband or anybody. It's governed by somebody who has absolutely no family link at all.
Right,
As
right,
we said, we
right,
needed
right.
to have an independent voice to help us, with decision
Yes,
making. So
yes.
that team we met quite often, and
Mm,
we discussed, we planned, and we came up with strategies with which to help. One of the things we did was to offer to our parents a discount on their school fees, because we realized that there was a financial challenge. So in spite of the fact that the school has its own challenge financially, because we have certain commitments, we have commitments to staff, the salary commitment is quite, high, exorbitant. The responsibility for paying the bills, the responsibility for ensuring that, in spite of the fact that we are not in the physical being, but building rather, but school was still taking place, and then we would have needed certain things for support, because, for example, we needed to ensure that we had devices like computers and so on, to ensure that work could take place. So we still had to find financial means to get certain things. And basically, where were these monies going to be coming from? So we had to reorganize, rebudget, and all of that within those weeks. And we had to have a lot of discussion, with the way forward. But thankfully, we've been able to pay our staff. We've been able to meet those financial demands. We've gotten some support from our own bankers. Our bankers gave us some support, and I really want to thank God for that. As we go forward, we sat through the 3.5 months of COVID, and we were wondering, what are we going to do in the new year? What are we going to do in September? How are we going to face this? And we've been looking very seriously at reorganizing, in terms of what are we asking our parents to get, what are we asking our children to have, what hands-on material are they going to have, you know, how will our teachers go forward? So we've been training our teachers, we've been encouraging them to, whatever training they can get, take it, whatever training they can get online. We've sending them different links and so on. We've organized to ensure that we go on together. There's a training that's coming up that we are going to do together. We are all going to do it together at the same time, so that we can support one another and so forth. I
Right.
should have told you earlier that we got the teachers who felt a little bit challenged with getting onto the online platform. They were supported by their colleagues. And some of
Okay.
the members of staff who were better with the online platform, like Desmond was very good, Mr. Milton, and so they were able to help the other teachers to maneuver through them. And so that's why we were able to successfully, you know, uh, execute during the last term. Actually, we had quite a number of Zoom activities that we invited the public to, and there are
Okay.
some that we have posted on Facebook, so that
Okay.
persons would see what happened. There is a district, the educational district that our school is located in. There is a WhatsApp a WhatsApp a WhatsApp chat there, and
Okay.
some of the things I posted, to share with the other schools. This is what we are doing. Maybe you
All
can
right.
capitalize on it,
Yeah.
or you can add to it, or you can, just adjust it, and you can use it with your school. Because we didn't think, just be selfish about what you're doing. We felt that,
Yeah.
all children needed to have all of the
Yeah.
kind of support that we can give to help them to come through this situation
Mm-hmm.
successfully. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
we did, we gave support to one another, and I have to say kudos to my staff. they gave support to their colleagues, and so everybody came through successfully. Everybody, and I'm so grateful for that.
Well, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Thank you. So when parents actually reach out to you, how have they been in terms of, what are they saying? What are the anxiety? What are some of the anxiety the parents are bringing to you?
One of the things I should tell you, Debbie, is that my parents, I forgot to mention that. We have some wonderful parents. Very, very supportive, very intelligent, very experienced, very professional parents. And they were instrumental in helping us to formulate certain things as well.
That's brilliant.
They would communicate, they would send me emails, they would send WhatsApp, what they think maybe we can do, what we can try out, we have parents in the medical field, and they would say, okay, these are the things that you need to put in place. So much so we have had suggestions and so on that have already come from parents as to the way we should go for September. Okay. These are some of the things you need to do. These are some of the materials, equipment, and so on that you need to have, going forward. This is where I think you need to place this. Maybe we need to reorganize our washrooms. Maybe we might need to reorganize our classes. Maybe we might need to say, okay, let us not have everybody on the compound at the same time. Maybe we might need to zone. Maybe we might need to have a differentiation of time. Maybe we could take some in the morning. All of these suggestions came from our parents.
Right.
And so I have to say that our parents are wonderful. Right. And I really thank God for them. We are right now at a juncture where we are trying to determine the way forward. And we've been having some meetings. Sometimes when there is going to be a change, sometimes it takes a while for everybody to come on board.
Yes.
But we definitely have to change, because the experts are saying to us that this pandemic is going to be with us for a while. COVID-19 is going to be around, and we have to learn to live with it. We have to learn to cope with it. And then recently we heard of another that might be threatening us. So, we may not necessarily be able to go back the way we were doing traditional school. So we have to look forward. And should we wait until 2021 to implement certain things? We don't even know what's going to happen between now and 2021. So it is like grabbing hold of the opportunity now for change, because we did not have a choice when COVID was thrust upon us. We had to just fit in and get things done.
And run with it, yes.
Moving forward, we need to grab hold of all of the opportunities that are available. So that's where we are right now.
Right. Thank you. So when are you planning? Are you on holidays now?
We are officially on holidays. Our last day was Friday. All of the virtual field trips were ending on Friday. We had some wonderful times, girl. We had some virtual field trips. Our children visited the Buckingham Palace. They visited the White House. They visited the Brooklyn Museum. They went to various zoos. They went to marine parks and so on,
Wow.
Field trips. So the final one was on Friday gone, and that was the end of our school term, the Trinity term, we call it.
Okay. The power and the beauty of the internet when it works well, eh?
Internet has been really a blessing, really a blessing. Right. In spite of what was happening. It really was a blessing. And the fact that we were able to execute made a big difference.
Yeah.
Made a big difference.
Yeah. It's, that's the power of, the doing these virtual things. We are able to, do quite a lot. Yeah. Another thing is, so when are you going back? When are you planning on going back? And how are you planning? Are you planning for the physical classroom, or you planning for physical classroom and online classroom?
Well, we're planning for both, you know.
Okay.
We're planning for both. I'll tell you why. Because there is still an uncertainty about school in terms of coming back into the physical plant in September. So we are not sure. So we are making some adjustments on the plant, but we are planning as well for if we have to continue the online platform. So right now we are looking into providing a tablet for our children. We are looking for a tablet that is not just going to be a tabula rasa. We don't want any empty slates coming to us. So we are trying to get a custom made tablet that would have the various apps related to each grade level and so on. So we are at that process now. You know, it's new, it's innovative. It has taken us by storm. We had no choice. So we're trying to prepare for the inevitable. If it is that we have to remain at home, that tablet is going to help because we are going to have our own server and things like that. Persons can have their own servers, the smaller servers at home as well. So we're looking into that possibility, and we have begun to put arrangements in place. We have a supplier, we have some institution to finance us and so on. So we are going that route right now. So if we are coming back into the classroom, the device is still good to be used in the classroom and to be used at home if we have to still continue the online platform and be at home.
Okay, okay. Thanks for that. So therefore, you're still uncertain as to what's happening in September.
We are still uncertain, yes.
Okay, okay. So the government have not said that, you know, the fact that there were no deaths in Grenada, was there?
No deaths in Grenada. No
okay, so the government have not said, okay, seeing the way things are, we could be graduating to the classroom. None of that have been told to you guys.
Well, what I would say is that they have asked us to submit to them our plans for returning. You see? So every school is supposed to say to the government, to the Ministry of Education, these are our plans. These are the things that we are going to institute for our return to the classroom. You see? But still, there is a tentative date for returning to school, the 7th of September. But we are not sure because our country is still experiencing the emergency state of emergency. Our ports are still not yet open, and you know, and some of those things are, you know, are still there. Some of those stipulations. So
okay.
So we are preparing for the inevitable. If we are going to have school, that device that we are recommending would be well placed to be used in school. If we have to operate from home, it is the best thing for us to use at home.
Okay, okay. Yeah, but in fact, thank you for that. But what actually just came to my mind is the fact that there have been no cases in Grenada, and it appears as if the government is reluctant to give the go-ahead to go back into schools.
Well, let me not say that the government is reluctant. I think the government is being very careful.
Okay, let's change the reluctance. And the government is very cautious.
Very cautious. Yes, and rightly so. Because remember, the school can be the incubator for the spread of that disease. You see how little children are. When they have a little flu and they come to school, I tell you, by the time you say Jack Robinson, according to my dead dad, by the time you snap your finger, the teacher gets the flu too, you know.
Yes.
So, you know, they have to be very cautious. They have to be very cautious.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Have you got anything else before I actually ask you for some tips?
What can I say? I would like to introduce you to my husband, who is our school's administrator.
Hello, well done, well done.
Okay.
Well
Thank
done.
you, Debbie. Yes, I also viewed the interview with Deslyn Warren.
Yes.
I thought it was fantastic. I think you're doing a great job as well. I like that program.
Thank you very much.
That is effective. So Thank you for featuring.
Thank you.
Blessings.
Thank
All right.
you.
So that's my husband, and he's our school's administrator.
Oh,
He's also a
brilliant.
pastor.
Okay, okay,
Mm,
okay, okay.
yes,
Okay.
and he's also a retired teacher.
Okay, all right. So
He
does
taught at the secondary level.
okay, so does he go into the classroom sometimes?
Sometimes I ask him to come because he's an agricultural science expert. So
Okay.
sometimes I ask him to come in, or sometimes the other teachers might ask him to come in and demonstrate something for them and so on. And he gladly does it. He loves it.
Oh,
He loves the
brilliant.
4-H club as well.
Okay, okay, okay.
And
That's
he does
brilliant.
music. He plays the guitar. So he
Oh,
assists the choir.
all right. So therefore, the beautiful thing about it is you have your husband wearing so many caps as educators do anyway. As educators, we wear the counseling, we wear the music cap, we wear the parents, we wear all the caps. So
Of
he's
course. Very true.
exactly. So in fact,
Very, very true.
even though he's fully not one of the educators in the class, because he's a past educator, he actually have that, you know,
He
so
has
you
what
really,
it takes.
exactly, exactly. So you're really fortunate in terms of, you know, he could do the music, he could do he could do the religious studies, he could also teach the, you know, agriculture science. So wow. So you're blessed in that sense that, you know, in terms of you actually moving forward with the school.
But Debbie, I should tell you this. My entire family was involved in teaching at one point in time in their lives. I've got 3 children, and at some point in time, they were teachers as well.
Okay.
So the entire family, all 5 of us, were teaching at one point in time.
Yes, you know, the plus side to that, there also the downside to that, because all you find that all you're doing is talking shop.
And lots of paper in the house, marking.
Oh yes, lots of paper, no table. You don't have a dinner table. All you have is a table full of papers.
Exactly.
You know, that's the
One
thing.
of my sons though studied in China.
Okay.
So he helped, you know, prior to COVID, he came in and helped a group with the Chinese language, the Chinese alphabet, and so. And that's one of the downside of COVID, because we normally have a summer school.
Okay.
And so he would do that in summer school, but this year we cannot have summer school. So this year's group would not have him teaching them any Chinese. That's the downside.
But why can't it be done online in the same way you're doing everything online?
Let me tell you why. Because he has to be doing his work online now.
Okay,
He is doing his master's, came home around the Chinese New Year. That would have been at the end of February. Okay. And got caught here because of COVID. So he is now having to do all of his work online. So he is very, very busy and cannot commit to any of those activities this year.
Okay.
That's one of the downside of COVID. I felt really, really, you know, hurt, because this group of children would not have that opportunity.
Have that opportunity to experience that. Yeah, well, we have the negative for every situation. We have the positive and the negative.
Yes, definitely.
You know, so the beautiful thing about it is we just need to embrace whatever positive aspect this new normal have given us as educators.
Yes.
And I do feel that it has given us a really set of new skills that we would never have if we were in the classroom. You know, because none of us would have really have the time to say, okay, let me go and explore the range of classroom, the range of platforms. It's like I listened to you and you've actually named 4 platforms that you guys have used or are using. Had this not been the situation, probably the only platform most exactly. That's the thing about it. And most of us probably are used to the to Google Classroom or Teams Whereas this new normal have forced us to go outside, because I would not have done a program like this. I would have been busy, you know, running up and down behind students, etc. I wouldn't even have time to think, yes, let me do a platform whereby invite educators to discuss the experience in the classroom.
Right.
That would not have been anything.
Right.
So we need to look at, as much as it has caused a lot of challenges, there must be a lot of celebration. If we actually reflect honestly, we will see that there were lots of celebration, and we need to embrace the celebration and celebrate it.
That's right.
You know, and demonstrate gratitude, because we have a lot to celebrate as educators. Yes.
That's right.
You know, because we've learned lots of new skills.
Of course, of course, of course. I learned a lot. Exactly. And you are quite correct. I would not have, in my wildest dreams, thought of all of these innovative things that we ended up doing here.
Exactly.
Because there would have not necessarily been any need for it. We would have just gone on with our traditional programs.
Yeah.
But COVID forced us to think outside of the box, as you always say.
Yes.
Also to collaborate.
Yeah.
Collaborate. Because when we would have our staff meetings and staff would suggest one thing, then another member of staff can say something that would build upon it. And that's how it went. That's really how it went. So that's one of the reasons why we moved into so many different platforms, because as people were trying to explore the best, so to call it, quote unquote, best means of reaching our children, they were finding different platforms and sharing the information and actually teaching all of us how to get onto whichever one, you know? So it was like each one teach one, each one reach one kind of a setting, you know? So one of the tips I would suggest is that we should be open to learning. We will never be able to learn everything. Every day we can learn something new. And you know what? When it comes to the internet, trust me, Debbie, the kids know a lot more than us. The children, I say to my children, are you born with something here in your head that tells you what to do? No, miss, I just know what to do. And I am there struggling, and my children can just say, miss, you do this, you do that. And you, oh my God. That's one of the surprising things, I mean, for this COVID-19 experience and having to use the platform. So one of my tips, as I say, is always be open to learning. Always be open. Never be ashamed of learning. Never be too proud and think, well, okay, I might have whatever degree or whatever amount of qualifications, but you can always learn something that would be beneficial.
Thank you. And in terms of, you know, for someone who have a school and someone who is going through the situation in terms of, you know, having to switch from the physical classroom to the online classroom, what are some of the tips you are going to give them in terms of, you know, the anxiety that you'll have experienced, etc., the uncertainty, etc.?
But Debbie, I'll be honest with you, I'm a very strong believer in prayers. I believe that God is able to give you grace to go through whatever trial, whatever challenge you may face. So I believe a lot in prayer, and I had to pray many times and ask God for grace and wisdom. How do I do this? How do I do that? Right? So that was one. The other thing is we had a lot of communication. My husband and I, my management, my staff. Communication is key. Must communicate. You don't know everything.
Yes.
You don't know everything. And when you communicate and ideas are bounced off, you can come up with something innovative. And that's what has happened with us. Many innovative things came up because we bounced our ideas together. And We had frequent meetings, frequent meetings. As I tell you, my staff had to be doing lessons, more than one lesson a day, sometimes 3 times a day. They had to meet with various groups of children by virtue of others not being able to be on for the main class. And when I say, okay, we're going to have staff meeting, we can't have it at regular evening time or whatever. My staff was committed to having staff meeting all 8 o'clock in the night, 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. They were committed to going on the online platform, and we were meeting regularly. And I did not take the responsibility either for getting the platform set up. I would task a teacher. I said, okay, you're going to take responsibility for setting up. You're going to be the host. You're going to be inviting people in, making sure everything is okay. Who has to be muted is muted. Who has to be unmuted is unmuted. I didn't take that responsibility. I passed it on to my people, At various meetings, different ones had responsibility, and they did very well. They did very, very well. So you can't do all, and you don't know all.
Yeah. I like that. It's like, give teachers the responsibility to empower them.
Of course, make them feel that they are appreciated. That they have something to offer, not just to teach the kids, but they have something to offer in the running of the institution.
Yeah, and that's important. That is so important, because that's how you get your educators on board with you, when they feel valued, when they feel that whatever they have to say is listened to, that it's been used, and not to say that they're just for the children. They're also there to contribute other skills that they've got. That's fantastic.
That's right.
That's fantastic.
That's right.
Have you got anything else to say before we wrap up?
Well, I could add that we have also a very strong PTA organization.
Right.
Not just the participation of the parents generally, but we have a PTA organization. So we have a president, we have an executive, and so on. And the PTA has been very, very instrumental as well in helping with the success of this program at the school. Our president is dynamic. She's wonderful. And they have contributed greatly to the success of all being able to maneuver through the past few months of COVID-19. And even moving into the new semester, they're on board, they're working, they're suggesting, they're supporting. And I mean, I cannot desire more. I have to be thankful to my parents on the PTA executive and as a body. I'm thankful to them.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant, because what makes up a school is not just you, the leader, or just your teachers. You need the support of everybody in order to make it function effectively. That's the fact that you could actually contest to that, which is fantastic. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Very
brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. And well, basically for me, just rounding up, is demonstrating that for this unusual situation which we have been thrust into, we have no choice than to swim across, as I keep on saying, and we need to embody all the new skills that it actually has given us, and we need to be appreciative of those skills. And I personally feel that some of the skills we need to actually transport some of those skills into the physical classroom, because it's actually made us become even more aware, especially, I keep on repeating this one, especially in terms of differentiation, because I've always seen myself as an educator who differentiate. However, this platform have even taught me how I should differentiate a lot more, because you also make me realize you were differentiating, but not enough. So, even in those situations, it have actually made us reflect upon the way we were actually differentiating. It certainly have made me reflect upon the way I used to, differentiate, even though I thought that I used to differentiate well, but no, it have actually shown me a different way in terms of to do things.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay.
It has opened our eyes to a lot of things.
Yes, definitely. You know, a
Yes.
lot of things that we were not very innovative about. You know, we
Yes.
went through teaching the same way that our grandparents were taught,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in terms of the classroom with the children sitting in rows, sitting in lines, listening to a teacher at the front of the class. This have
Mm-hmm.
actually showed us that in education, we have to move. In
That's right.
education, we need to be far more innovative than we've ever been. In education, we need to think a lot more outside of the box than we used to do. It have really taught us to, you know, we have to, education have to turn around.
Yes.
360 is going to be turned around 360 because every industry have moved except the education sector.
You are
Okay.
quite correct. You are quite correct.
Yeah,
You are very, very correct.
yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you very, very much. I do appreciate you for
Welcome.
coming on board and sharing your experience with us. You
You're
know,
welcome.
it have actually shown a different
It's
dynamic,
a,
a
it's
different
been a pleasure.
section on what we saw with the other educators I've had. Although I've had other principals, you know, every country, the way they actually run, you know, we are all on the same journey, but we all in different shapes.
That's right.
So it's
That's right.
really is interesting in terms of how different countries, you know, the principle and how things are taken forward, you know, varies differently, quite greatly, but at the same time, there's some commonality.
Yes.
Right. Thank you
Yes.
very much, people.
You're
You know,
welcome.
all my supporters on Facebook. I do appreciate you very much, and I do thank you for constantly tuning in. And I do ask you to comment. I do ask you to share, and I do ask you to like, because I am
Mhm.
sure that some of the things we are discussing, you would have got something from it, whether or not you're an educator, whether or not you're a parent. It actually could have enabled you to see things very differently because
Yes.
we are coming from a different space right now.
True.
If you do need to reach out to me, feel free to reach out to me. I do a range of stuff which I'm going to be talking about next week. As from, I did say I was going to go onto my page from today. I will be going onto my page from tomorrow because today I had a little bit of challenges with Zoom earlier on. So as from tomorrow, I'll be going onto my page, which is Teacher Success Coach, from which I'll be zooming this, I'll be streaming the rest of the programs. And most of my programs would be from my page, which is Teacher Success Coach, because I, as well as I'm an educator, I'm also a coach who coach female educators, which I'll be speaking on that sometime later on in the week. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a
You're
fantastic
welcome.
afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are. Stay blessed and stay safe.
Thank you. Blessings.
educator from around the world.